In Chapter 1, Hadrian Marlowe, exiled on the volcanic world of Jad, reflects on faith, fire, and his long life of over 6 centuries. The peaceful routine of his secluded life at the fire school is disrupted when an imperial shuttle lands, delivering Lieutenant Edward Albe with grave news. Hadrian's father, Lord Alastair, has been dead for over a century, and the Empire urgently requires Hadrian's help against the Watchers. Despite Alba's pleas and the Emperor's pardon, Hadrian, overwhelmed by memories and grief, rejects the summons, declaring himself no longer a servant of the Empire. In Chapter 2, Hadrian Marlowe meets Prince Aldaia du Otranto to discuss the implications of Lieutenant Albe's visit and the news of his father's death. Aldaia reveals the precarious situation of the galaxy. The Jadian border is threatened by the Lothrian Commonwealth, imperial support is critical, and plague attacks persist. Aldaia also informs Hadrian of the destruction of Nessus by the Cielcin and the devastating loss of imperial coordination. Despite Aldaia's encouragement to act, Hadrian wrestles with his doubts and refusal to answer the Empire's call. Aldaia leaves him with a pointed question about his daughter, forcing Hadrian to reflect further. In Chapter 3, Hadrian Marlowe returns to the fire school at sunset, reflecting on the burden of his past and his growing disquiet. He observes his daughter Cassandra skillfully participating in a rigorous training exercise called the Tower Dance. Cassandra, a product of Hadrian's and Valka's genetic legacy, exhibits her strength and precision, reminding him of her mother and his lost past. After the training session, Cassandra senses her father's unease and questions him about the imperial emissary's visit. Hadrian, reluctant to confront the truth or burden her with his struggles, avoids her questions, promising to explain later, but remains internally conflicted. In Chapter 4, Hadrian struggles with the Emperor's summons, his father's death, and his own unresolved grief. His daughter Cassandra discovers the Emperor's letter and urges Hadrian to act, citing his responsibility to help save the Empire. After much internal conflict, Hadrian agrees to contact Lieutenant Alba and leave Jad, realizing the Empire's dire need and Jad's precarious political situation. Cassandra insists on undertaking the dangerous trial of the heart before departing, seeking to prove herself as a Maskalos. Despite his fear of losing her, Hadrian reluctantly supports her decision. Together they prepare for the trials ahead, bound by shared determination. In Chapter 5, Cassandra undertakes the mysterious trial of the heart, the sacred and perilous rite of the Maskaloi. Hadrian is forbidden to witness the trial, spending the day in anguished anticipation, reflecting on his love for Cassandra and the weight of the life he has thrust upon her. As the sun sets, a lone figure emerges from the temple atop the mountain, Cassandra clad in the black robes of a swordmaster, victorious but battered. Though burned and bloodied, she smiles through her pain, declaring her triumph. Overwhelmed with pride and relief, Hadrian embraces her, knowing she has passed a transformative milestone. In Chapter 6, Hadrian and Cassandra prepare to leave Jad aboard their ship, the Ascalon, escorted by imperial officers led by Lieutenant Alba. Cassandra, now a swordmaster after completing her trial, marvels at the ship and the prospect of her first interstellar journey. Hadrian reflects on the significance of the moment, recalling his own first departure from Delos and the weight of leaving Jad behind. As the Ascalon launches into space, Hadrian feels the familiar unease of re-entering the vast, dangerous universe. The chapter ends with Hadrian dreading the malice of the wider galaxy and the dangers that await them. In Chapter 7, Hadrian and Cassandra board the Troglita, an imperial warship, marking Hadrian's return to his old life of service. They meet key figures, including Lord Friedrich Oberlin, director of Hapsis, who reveals their mission: an excavation on the distant desert world of Sabratha, near the galaxy's edge. The Emperor's warning to trust no one looms over every interaction. Oberlin hints at the dangerous nature of their expedition, but avoids revealing full details, implying they will face a monumental, a godlike entity. As Hadrian wrestles with returning to the imperial fold, he commits to aiding Oberlin in hunting and killing this ancient threat. In Chapter 8, aboard the Troglita, Hadrian and Cassandra settle into their quarters on the Ascalon, which Hadrian insists on using for security and mobility. During a conversation with Special Agent Alb, Hadrian recounts his haunting encounter with the remains of a Watcher. Later, Hadrian encounters an Irktani auxiliary corps led by Chiliarch Anaz, who reveals that their people revere